At WHBR WVUP, we love shining a spotlight on local churches and ministries, like the one you're about to watch. If you enjoy their program, please let them know. Reach out on Facebook and send them a quick message. Follow their page. Hit like, comment, and share their videos with your friends. Your support makes a real difference to the churches we broadcast and to our station. Thank you for sharing and enjoy the program.
Do you know why some of us have anxiety? It's because we're trying to fight tomorrow's battles with yesterday's strength. And we got to find a healthier rhythm. That when God encourages us to rest and seek healing, we got to left foot, right foot, breathe. See, God is not just interested in getting you into the promised land. He's interested in making sure you're healthy enough to sustain in the promised land. Today we're going to jump into chapter 5, starting in verse 1. Now when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings along the coast heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, listen to this, their hearts melted in fear. They no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. So this is a moment right off the heels of this miracle of millions of people crossing the Jordan on dry ground, and now their enemies are scared. Now the enemies have no courage to fight. And you could think in this moment, we got them right where we want them. They are scared. Listen, we have the advantage, we have the momentum, we have the upper hand, we have the edge. This is the time to kind of go on the offensive and attack and strike while the iron is hot, but not so fast. A matter of fact, if you had 100 guesses, none of them would come close to what happens next. What happens next kind of really shocks you. If you've never read Joshua chapter 5, you would just never imagine how this story is going to turn, and it's different than anything you would ever expect. But I also want you to know this morning that different can be your difference maker, and that our God oftentimes does things different, and that's okay. His ways are higher than our ways, Scripture says. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. It's different. In 1964, a high school high jumper named Dick Fosbury revolutionized the sport of track and field because he did something different. See, at that time, there were really 3 conventional methods to clear the bar. There was the straddle jump, there was the western roll, and there was the scissor jump. And really, none of those techniques fit his 6'5" frame. They just didn't work for him, so he innovated. And he created a new style of jump, a face-up, shoulders-first technique. And it was awkward. A matter of fact, a reporter saw it and said this, "It looks like a fish flopping on a boat." But 4 years later, thousands of awkward attempts later, Dick Fosbury represented Team USA in the 1968 Olympics. And he used this technique. And not only did he win the gold medal, he set a new Olympic record for a jump of 7 feet, 4 1/4 inches. By the next Olympics, 28 of the 40 Olympians were using the technique named after a man who dared to be different. The Fosbury flop is what they called it. Can I tell you what usually comes before the awesome? It's the awkward. It's the awkward. So many times people miss the awesome because they don't want to deal with the awkward. So many people conform to the world around them because of peer pressure, because of popular opinion, because of political correctness. But daring to be different requires God's help. It requires God giving us strength and courage. You got to sometimes push through the awkward to get to the awesome. If you want God to do something new, you got to stop doing the same old thing. So what was so different? What was so awkward for the Israelites? Here we go. Verse 2. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again. So there you go. That's pretty awkward. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haraloth. And I'll let you look in your own Bibles and look at the footnote of what that means. But it's pretty crazy and it's pretty graphic, okay? But notice this. It's just one verse. Just one verse between what God said and what Joshua did. Don't you want to live a life like that? God says it, I do it. God leads, I follow. God instructs, I obey. And it continues. Now, this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. Why? Because of their disobedience. They were not permitted to enter into the promised land. So he raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. So circumcision in that day was a physical sign that these people belonged to God. It was this physical representation of a covenant that said, we're going to follow the one true living God. And circumcision was this outward symbol of the fact that these people were God's chosen people. And what God is saying in this moment, hey, I want to cut out the wilderness of sin that you've been living in. I want to cut away some things in your life so I can usher you into the promised land. I want to cut out some old so we can make room for some new. I want to cut off your past, and I want you to believe in me for your future. Church, hear me. Sometimes the problem isn't getting you out of Egypt, it's getting Egypt out of you. That whatever we've been holding on to, whatever's been holding us back, we got to deal with some stuff today to cut it off and to let it go once and for all. You know, in Joshua chapter 4, they built up those stacking stones, a stone memorial for the Lord, and that was great. But this takes it a step further. This moment here is personal. It's very personal. God's saying, I don't want you just to make markers. I want you to be marked. I want you to be changed. Listen, not just a stack of stones you can point to, but a new heart that's been made new in you. See, in the book of Romans, there were some strict Jewish people that became Jesus followers. And they didn't have the whole story quite figured out yet. And what they wanted to do was add circumcision as a requirement to the gospel. And this is how Paul responded in Romans 2:29. Circumcision is circumcision of the heart by the Spirit, not by written code, not by law, not by anything anyone else can do. And what Paul is saying, no. Nothing should be added, nothing extra, no external business required. Don't add anything to the gospel, because what God is doing in our lives, it's not a circumcision of the flesh, it's a circumcision of the heart. That when we put our faith and trust in Jesus, when we are born again, it's Jesus who cuts off the old and ushers in a new life. It's the moment where God removes the old way, and now we're a new creation in Christ Jesus. We got to cut off the old. We got to let some things go. We got to get the Egypt that we've been holding on to out of us. Verse 8, and after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. Now, most likely, many commentaries say this would take several weeks. It would take, a couple of weeks just for all the procedures that needed to happen. But then you could expect 2 to 3 weeks for enough time to properly heal. And here in the story, nothing in here feels strategic to us. Okay, you had a chance to attack your enemies while they're melting in fear, and you got the momentum and excitement from crossing the Jordan, but you don't do that. Instead, now you're bandaged up and you're vulnerable to attack. You've made it aware to everybody that you're there, but now you're kind of like the sitting duck in this moment. But it's so important for you to rest long enough so you can be healed. See, here God is emphasizing resting over rushing to the next thing. And don't we do that so often? Man, right after God moves, right after a door opens, we're just on to the next thing, rushing to the next thing. And in this moment, we got to understand that God is speaking to us. I want to emphasize rest. Why? You can't fight at your best while hiding your deepest wounds. You can't fight at your best while you're still hiding these wounds. See, what you refuse to heal today may hinder what God's calling you to tomorrow. It's so important to understand that God was pausing the Israelites for a moment before they got to Jericho. And Jericho is this big battle where, remember, they're going to march around the city 6 days, and on the 7th day, 7 times, a lot of marching ahead of them. And this is a big moment for them. They say, I need you to pause and rest and heal, because God knows healed people fight differently. When you're a healed individual, you fight, you got more purpose, you got more resolve, you got more determination, you're empowered with the Holy Spirit. The enemy has no foothold against you. His attacks don't work against you. He can't poke at old wounds in your life because you've been healed. You've had the time to rest. We need to establish a healthy rhythm of rest, one where we can find healing. Pat Summitt, known as one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all times, she was the leader of the University of Tennessee Lady Volunteers, 1,000 career wins, multiple national championships. She was known for instilling toughness and discipline and grit to her teams over the years. But later in life, Pat faced even a greater battle than basketball. In 2011, she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. And while she was walking through that painful journey, there's just this one phrase that kept being associated with her relentless spirit. Left foot, right foot, breathe. That was her advice. That was her way of life. Anytime she was to encourage her team or encourage other people that were facing adversity, she would give them this wisdom: left foot, right foot, breathe. You got to keep moving. You got to keep believing. But every day we're going to strive for progression, not perfection. Do you know why some of us have anxiety? It's because we're trying to fight tomorrow's battles with yesterday's strength. And we got to find a healthier rhythm, that when God encourages us to rest and seek healing, we got to left foot, right foot, breathe. To rest in the Lord, to rely on his strength. The battles are coming. There's a lot of marching in front of them, so we got to get the cadence right. We got to get the rhythm down now. We got to experience the healing now. To left foot, right foot, breathe. See, God is not just interested in getting you into the promised land. He's interested in making sure you're healthy enough to sustain in the promised land. I believe healing can turn small steps into giant leaps. I believe healing can end old chapters and begin new ones. I believe healing can take us to new places that old wounds could never do. We got to rest long enough to find healing. Joshua chapter 5, verses 9 and 10 now says, Then the Lord said to Joshua, Today I have rolled away the approach of Egypt from you. So the place has now been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. So Gilgal means rolled away. Rolled away. Why? Because that was a special place where God rolled the waters back. He rolled away the old. He rolled away their sin. It was there that they rolled stones and stacked them to remember the moment. He's saying now's a good time to stop at Camp Gilgal, to stop at Camp Rollaway, and now celebrate the Passover. Now's a good time to celebrate and remember the Passover. And that applies to us today. We got to remember what's been rolled away in our lives. We got to remember what God has done for us, how he's rolled back our sin, how he's rolled away so many old things and got us out of our reproach. Before God takes them to victory, he takes them back to gratitude. You got to remember. You got to remember where you've been. You got to remember what I've done for you, and that's going to help you step into the promised land. And the same goes for us today. You got to remember that Jesus gave us instructions when he instituted the Lord's Supper, that on the night that he was to be betrayed, he got with his disciples in the upper room and he shared a meal with them. And I just want to draw your mind to Luke chapter 22, verse 19. He took the bread, he gave thanks to God and broke it and gave it to them, saying, This is my body given to you. Do this what? Do this in remembrance of me. At the end of the service, we're going to take part of communion of the Lord's Supper, and we're going to share those words one more time. Do this in remembrance of me. Remember what? That Jesus gave his life. That Jesus took our sin. He died our death, buried in our tomb. And on the third day, Gilgal happened on Calvary. The stone was rolled away. We got to celebrate this. Anybody thankful of remembering what Lord has done for you? Come on, give him a hand of praise this morning. See, the cross doesn't just cover what you did. It changes what defines you. See, Gilgal is the place where God breaks the barrier and he breaks the power of labels in your life. No more reproach, no more disgrace, no more shame. It's been rolled away. Come on, no more past can be held against you. No more lies of the enemy. No more guilt for your sin. It has been rolled away. We got to remember today the stones that God has rolled away, that there's no way you could have moved them on your own. It was only the work of God. Take time to celebrate that. Take a moment to say, you got to mark some Gilgals in your life. You got to say, this is the place, this was the season, this was the time that God did the impossible and rolled stones away. Two more verses, verses 11 and 12. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the produce of Canaan. And Canaan is what we refer to as the promised land. And when you think of the produce, you got to think of how the promised land was billed to us all along. It was a promise that this was the land flowing with milk and honey. Just a bountiful harvest, so fruitful. So things are changing now. They ate the produce when they had Passover, and the manna stopped the very next day. That's a big deal. Why is that a big deal? They had been eating manna for the last 40 years. So this is huge for them. And I want you to know, manna was this miraculous food that God provided to the Israelites every morning while they're wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. And in the book of Exodus, it's described as this flaky, bread-like substance that would fall on the ground. And listen, all they would have to do is step out of their tent that morning, and it would be there. All they would need to do is gather it. And you would gather enough for the day. If you try to hold on to it and bring it into the next day, it would spoil and waste. It was their daily bread. It was this gift from the Lord. And the word manna means, what is it? What is it? Because when the Israelites first saw this stuff, they're like, I have no idea what this is. I have no idea. So it's so interesting that this is what they had for 40 years. Manna stew, manna tacos, manna barbecue, boiled manna, broiled manna, baked manna, fried manna, grilled manna, manna casserole, manna souffle, manna pot pie, manna gumbo, organic range-free manna, locally sourced manna, DoorDash manna, okay? Can you imagine every day? Every which way you could eat it. They had the same thing for 40 years. Do you know that you can be so accustomed to a blessing in a prolonged season of your life that you begin to complain about the very thing you prayed for? 2 months after experiencing freedom out of Egypt, the Israelites started to complain that they were hungry. 2 months of freedom. This is what we see in Exodus 16:3. The Israelites said to them, this is Moses and Aaron, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. Man, we just been better off dead. Then there in Egypt, we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve. Everybody's starving to death. 2 months after leaving Egypt, they started complaining and they started missing the types of food they had back then. And they're like, oh man, it was an all-you-could-eat buffet. Really? 2 months and you have forgotten the back-breaking labor to make bricks every single day? That you were enslaved, that you were beaten, you forgot that? How could you forget? And you're just complaining how God has provided it again and again. So God answered their prayer. That's when manna started following. 2 months in, every day, manna. They didn't have to work for it. They didn't have to think about it. Automatic. Every morning, step out of the tent, gather manna, you would eat it. And then again, guess what? They started complaining. They wanted something different. This is boring. We've eaten this every day, all the ways possible. So they complained. Numbers 11:5, we remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. You sure about that? Half beaten every day of your life at no cost? What are you talking about? It cost you everything. How could you forget? They became so accustomed to a blessing that they began complaining about the very thing they asked God for. See, freedom is an acquired taste. Freedom isn't complete until your mind catches up to your miracle. They had to learn in this moment that even though the manna stopped, that they could have just assumed this must mean God has left us. Just like they complained so many times before, they could have been complaining again. This must mean God doesn't care. They went from asking, what is it, to where is it? Where is it? And where are you, God? What's happening now? What do we do now? God's telling them it's a new season. That you're going to have to mature in your mindset. That you're going to have to learn how to manage your miracle. See, God doesn't want yesterday's provision to become today's limitation. And when the manna stopped, it wasn't that God had left them. It meant that it's time to grow. Here's the deal. This is what we have to believe, that no matter what season we're in, God will provide. God will provide. I believe God is going to give you what you need for this season. He's going to give you what you need in this season. Seasons change, but our God is unchanging. Always faithful, always loving, always merciful, always providing. Now, God may need to cut some things off of you. God may need to cut some things off from you. And God may need to remove the comfortable to usher in the fruitful. But God is always providing what you need for this season. Let me remind you, Philippians 4:19, and my God, come on, he's my God, he's your God, will meet all your needs according to the riches of the glory in Christ Jesus. Our God is faithful to meet all your needs. It's a new season. It could be a new supply, but it's the same source. It's the same God, and it's only God who could sustain you in what you need for this season, for what you're stepping into, and for every season. Maybe some things are coming off the menu for you today, but I don't want you for a moment to begin to complain or begin to assume that God has left you, but to begin leaning into a posture of receiving what God has next. What area in your life do you need to do a Fosbury flop? I want to encourage you to push past the awkward to get to the awesome. Perhaps there's an area in your life today that you need healing. Can I encourage you not to rush to the next thing, but rest enough to heal up? I recommend this: left foot, right foot, breathe. What stones have been rolled away in your life that you need to remember and you need to express gratitude for and celebrate the Gilgals in your life?
Thank you for watching today's broadcast of Echo Life Church. To get connected, learn about events, or plan your visit, you can find us at echolifechurch.com. If you call Echo Life home and would like to partner with us, alternate ways to give include a text prompt following the instructions on your screen. You can also find Echo Life Church on the Church Center app. Our mission is to lead people to be fully devoted followers of Jesus, and we'd love to walk that journey with you. Join us in person here in Pensacola, or tune in weekly right here on WHBR WVUP.
Thank you for watching the local ministries that we broadcast here on WHBR WVUP. If you are blessed by their programs, reach out and let them know. If you'd like to see your church on this channel, please let us know, and we'd be more than happy to reach out to your pastor. You can contact us at 850-473-8633 or email us at whbr@ctnonline.com.